So welcome to part 2 of the at-home, one-room speed and agility workout, which is going to be the agility workout today. So agility, for most people, is the ability to change directions. It also actually involves the ability to react. Now, when you're training, though, changing direction is most of what you can do, especially if it is by yourself and confined to the space of one room. But if you have the opportunity, get outside, do some bigger drills, and maybe, if you have like a brother, a sibling, a parent, somebody who can help you with some reaction drills, whether it's even just something as simple as pointing one direction, throwing, kicking a ball at you, or even just an audible command, then that can only help you improve even a little bit more. And so the change in direction part involves technique, reactive power, and then especially some muscles that add in, such as your groin and your adductors, just as much as your glutes and your quads, which are the bigger power muscles when you're looking at speed. And that, by the way, was coffee. So athletes with a better change in direction are found to have 4 things that they're better at: faster acceleration, better braking, better balance, and more knee and hip flexion. So because anytime you're doing any of these drills, especially in a smaller confined space like one room, but even outside, make sure you're always focusing on those 4 things. When it comes to agility work and change in direction, quality over quantity. So focus on the braking, your ability to slow down and stop on command and purposefully. Your acceleration, so coming out of each change in direction quickly. Your balance, so again the control, and then your knee and hip flexion, so get that full range of motion in every single time. Let's get to it. Okay, so first in the agility series, we're going to focus on drills that involve short, purposeful movements. So we're going to, again, this is just quickness. So we're looking at just that impulsive little changes in direction that make sure we actually have control of our own movements, control of our own feet, and the faster and lighter we can make them happen, then the faster we're building that connection between the brain and their ability to move. Because it's all going to come down to the brain. Okay, quality and speed. Do it correctly, and then try to do it nice and quick and light. So first off, you're just going to do different assortment of drills called quick feet. You can do these on a small little step, or you can do them on flat ground. Doesn't really matter too much. So there's 5 of them that I like to do. And you'll see the very last one has actually a couple of variations. But the first 2 are just quick forward steps, forward back steps. Again, it's all about just quickness. It's all about just being light and it's literally that simple. Move forward and back as quick as you can. Stay on the balls of the feet. That's going to make you much quicker than doing flat steps. So get off that push-up position or that push-off position from the ball of the feet. If you remember that from day 1 with the speed video. So when you're doing the quick foot drill going straight ahead, make sure that you're actually doing 2 different variations. One leading with your left foot, one leading with your right foot. Almost everybody has a favorite foot, so one of them will probably feel much more awkward than the other one does. Make sure you actually even them out, and that as you step, you don't inadvertently revert back to your favorite one. So normally these are all done in sets of about 10 to 15 seconds. But again, you can do multiple sets, especially when you are inside and are confined to a little bit less drills than you might do outside. Now next up, 1 and 2, left and right foot forward, is basically taking them, adding a little bit more of a hop, more of a balance for quick shifting movements rather than steps. Now this would just be called the Ali shuffle, because again, like boxing legend Muhammad Ali was very big on this type of footwork. So it's just that quick shuffle back and forth. Like we talked before, you're always on the balls of the feet. So what's good about this is, again, is not just shifting your weight, but also controlling your ability to choose any reaction that you might want. Because from each of these positions, as long as I'm on the ball of my foot, I can instantly move just about anywhere in a full field within 1 step. So again, ball of the foot remains to be key. So that's the first 3. Number 4, we start going laterally. So one might just be a quick double step. Again, just simple, super simple, literally a quick side shuffle step. Number 5 takes that same idea and again makes it more of a shuffle jump, again, so adding more possibility of reaction. But we're going to do 2 different variations, maybe depending on your sport, maybe just because you want to do a 6th one. So 1 involves just shuffling the feet back and forth. If you notice, my body is staying in roughly the same place. Sport-wise, this one will be much more similar to what, say, like a soccer player does over the ball when they're juggling it. So they're here, So again, that's going to be more similar to that. If you're looking to actually change your direction more or move your body more, so something like, let's say, a running back or a receiver might do, or a basketball player, you want to actually move your body mass, not just your feet, then you want to make sure that you're actually getting that body movement each way to go with it. So again, quick feet, 5 or 6 different drills, usually sets a 10 to 15 seconds. All right, so next up, another different variation on quickness, but this one adding a little bit more of a bouncy, reactive plyo component to it, are just going to be simple line hops. Again, so what's crazy about these is these look so simple because they are. Anybody can do them, but again, it's just about that speed and quickness off the ball of your feet. You're going to hear me talk about the ball of the feet all day when talking about speed movements. But also, believe it or not, these have been found to have a huge reduction capability on ACL and knee injuries. Again, a key part of that is because they teach you how to move with your knees in alignment with the rest of your leg. So line hops, you have a lot of different variations here. Pick and choose, mix them up, use them all. You have normal forward and backwards. Again, just both feet together. And it's just like it sounds. Notice I'm absorbing with my knees almost every single time and staying at the ball of my feet. You have the same exact possibility, single foot, single leg. Much harder. And again, it's all about keeping that line vertical through here. And that balance could just almost fall over. Against that single leg one. Now, in both of these, even though it's so simple, again, you can already start working on that knee health. So, and that's keeping everything vertical through here. Because short little movements, speed movements, are the ones where you most typically see people who have either anatomical differences, where their knees are already kind of at a disadvantage based on how their hips and their knees are built, but also people who have muscle weaknesses are more likely to cave in their knees with short little movements. So if you see that, very first thing you want to do is cue it and purposefully drive those legs out from your hips so that they remain in a healthy balance. So this very, very good drill to actually record yourself on so that you can see if you're doing that with the knees or not. So you work on that knee health now, make it a habit so that when you get back to normal practice in games, you don't have to think about it as much. And it's already ingrained in you. And you'll really see the difference with single leg jumps. So again, very short drills typically give you the best ability to improve specifics. To go with the quick feet hops, or to go with just the lateral or the line hops, go laterally. Same thing. Here. Again, very common to see knees cave in, especially on the outside or the inside. So make sure that they're remaining in healthy lines, and otherwise shifting the hips. And then again, you have lateral ones as well. And then you can work in different variations. For example, you can do it in a square, single leg, or double leg. You can do it in like an hourglass. Feel free to add different combinations, but quick, short hops, and always focusing on your knee health and always focusing on the ball of your foot. So one thing you'll notice about these drills is that they all come down to one movement at a time. That's why they're so basic. It's also why they're actually so functional. Don't get enamored by how complex and the super crazy drills people do with like 18 different skills just because it looks cool for like Twitter or social media. And the basics are where it's at, because every single movement you do out on the actual field or on the court or on the pitch is built out of one movement at a time. So there's no such thing as a necessity to do complication if you haven't mastered the basics and fundamentals of single movements first. And like I just said earlier, the single movements also give you the best ability to focus on specific techniques, skills, weaknesses, and strengths. So one of the big ones for all of these change of direction drills is the ability to already prepare your knees for proper movement and decrease your chances of injury. So the next one is called a Heidens. And so this one's actually almost like it's in essence almost like a jumping drill again, but it's great for power. It's great for your hips and your groin. And it also builds that ability to stop and decelerate, that braking that we talked about earlier, and your balance. So any sport with lateral movements, or just even a push-off, like baseball pitchers, baseball players in general, whether they're pitching or in the batter's box, or hockey, Heidens are a huge part and a mainstay of their program when they're doing a Viking performance program. Okay, so the basic Heiden looks almost like a speed skater. It's about lateral displacement movement in landing. So I'm going to be on one leg. I'm actually going to load myself up using my arms and everything. So I'm going to make sure I'm loading, already make sure that knee's in place, and then I'm going to aggressively drive laterally to the other side and catch yourself on that direction. So ideally you want to land, absorb in the leg, and balance myself. So we typically call that a stick landing when you involve landing and then try to just pause. Okay, load, drive, stick. Socks, not the best idea for this. So practice what I preach. You guys can see it. Boop. There we go. Lot and stick and try to hold that balance. So it takes practice. There we go. And stick. And then once you get that up and you get the alignment, do them continuously. You can also work on them individually with reaction. So, for example, hopping into a quick one, hopping into the short movement, and then going into the second one. Again, so Heidens, huge part of programs. Get that lateral power, that balance, and again, that knee health. All right, so as we focus on the basic movements, that leads me to the final part of the agility section of this, although there's actually going to be some strengthening exercises after this. But the agility drill that I start every Viking trained athlete with, we call in-out drills. Again, there's simply moving into a certain spot, taking one action that we're trying to master, and then moving back out of it. So we're basically taking those primary simple movements that make up all the different movements that you take out in sport and working on them one at a time. So I'll give you both sideways and front back actions here so you can see what happens. So the start and the single actions are going to make the biggest changes. So in the in-out drill, the order doesn't matter. For example, one of these will be going in from a forward movement to a back pedaling movement. So always start slow with these. Start slow, get the balance correct, and move out. So when it comes to a in-out movement, let's say we're going forward, ideally we're taking one step, loading it. Notice everything looks the same, like I'm still pretty much running forward. But I want to load that step up and be able to drive myself back off that step. So what happens, one of the reasons this is so effective is what most people do naturally is, again, they have a favorite foot that does everything. A lot of people will step forward and they'll actually stop with one foot, take another step just for shits and giggles, and then get started with it. So what they could have done in just one simple step, they actually took 3. 1, 2, 3. So instead, make it happen off just one, and your athlete will be way better prepared. So you're basically engaging the actual plyometric effect of your lower body to make that movement happen much quicker. So you get straight up and in and out. And again, the key is to make sure that it's actually all happening in your body's natural alignment again. So that knee should still be forward. The foot should still be forward. I'm absorbing it in my legs and coming here. So I'm not just turning my foot. If I am, so notice how this is going to be a much higher risk for your knee, is this position. So if I am turning my foot, then I better be turning my hips to go with it, so at least it's all pointed in the same direction again. Which almost becomes a lateral push-off, which is one of these as well. So again, so make sure that that knee and the feet are pointed in the same direction the whole time. So again, just forward, step, absorb, push back. So sure enough, one of the other ones is the opposite. Going back pedal, and then going to a forward motion. I'm moving backwards, I step, and I drive out. So, and again, this one also has a couple things that usually happen. One is, again, the multiple step. Going backwards, I'm kind of stopping, I take another step so that my favorite foot can go forward. That's the most common one athletes do. Or another one is the unprepared reaction. When an athlete's kind of going back, you hear coaches all the time. Coaches are always telling athletes to get their hips down. If their hips are up, you have less ability to stop and change direction. So you're running lazy, and you got to do this thing going backwards. So the fastest situation is to go backwards, And if you remember from our speed lecture yesterday, one of the most important parts is that forward lean. So I go backwards. As soon as I stop, I create that forward lean instantly. That last step should not only be the last foot back, it should be a stop and actually an explosive pivot. But it should be at least that stop. And notice what's the key here? That all-important ball of the foot again. So to go back, I place that ball of the foot. If it's actively engaged, it can actually push me forward already and instantly put more force onto that front leg so it can drive as well. So go back, forward, drive through there. Again, so I'm coming backwards, drive through that front leg, and I have more power engaged. So again, anything you can explosively do off a single reactionary step is going to be way faster and more explosive than something that takes multiple steps. And then we also have lateral movement. Again, so here, same idea, going one step at a time, and it's all about weight absorption. So for one, again, knees in the right position, absorb, and get used to pushing off. So you get used to that push-off step. Make sure you're not getting any knee issues here. Get used to absorbing and pushing yourself off. Do just one side at a time, but as soon as you get it, start going back and forth. And then you can start putting some of these actions together. For example, with the lateral one, I just try to get the athletes, ideally, this has a three-part, especially if I'm going into a sprint and run. So if I'm reacting, I'm moving sideways, something happens and I realize I want to run that way. The best thing I want to do is not stop, turn, and run, which is what most coaches actually coach. Instead, I want to get that reactive power, step one, absorb, push off. As I do this, that push shifts my body weight over here. It's pushing that body weight over this leg. Now this one is loaded up. As I do that, I drive this one over and across to turn my hips as I'm simultaneously pushing off this leg. So it's a reaction, load, and then twist and drive. Reaction, load, and come through. Going the other way, reaction, load, and then drive through. And ideally, it's driving into that full-on sprint of having a forward lean and that knee action, and again, having a straight line all the way from your shoulders through the connection point on the ground. So again, in-out drills start slow. They don't need to be any specific distance at all. It's just having a preset point, and make sure you do it even on both feet. They're going to stop, absorb, and react in the opposite direction. Again, that's my favorite drill, honestly. It lets you work on every immediate change. Every bigger drill you do with cones or with routes involves one of these movements. So again, master these movements, pay attention to the speed, to the alignment of your legs, to the knee health, to the ball of your feet, so you can be powerful and reactive, and you'll be good to go. So now I'm going to finish off this agility portion with 3 different strength training exercises, which are going to work some of the smaller muscles, but also some of the most important ones for change in direction, not just performance, but also the ability to stay healthy. When it comes to change in direction, this is where most of your non-contact injuries happen. So especially when it comes to things like hamstring tears or pulls, groin strains, or the dreaded knee injury. And so these exercises alone can help you drop and decrease that chance of injury a little bit more, as well as actually just making you better at the actual change in direction. So first one is called just a calf raise, but it's not any calf raise, it's a diagonal calf raise. Most people do calf raises, and I'm not talking about 3 like diagonal as in out, although those have value as well, but not very many people have done an actual diagonal calf raise. So what you do here is all you need is a stable surface, and actually lean against it in a direction as if you're changing, or at an angle as if you're changing direction. Get solid on that leg, make sure that that knee's in a good place, and then from there, you're pushing through and doing calf raises against that diagonal force. And so diagonal calf raises can help you prepare and get that little extra power when looking at change in direction. So really easy, so do a few sets, work until you feel a good burn. It'll actually be surprisingly harder than you think it is. And again, make sure you obviously even it out, left foot, right foot. All right, so our second agility change in direction based strength training exercise builds off a common one, which is the side plank. So side planks alone are already going to help with the hips, especially if you do them the more intense method of actually stacking your feet. So we're here, I'm constantly want to be driving that hip up, not letting it sag, but aggressively drive it up, which will get more core activation, and then again, having your feet stacked will also put more emphasis on the actual hip. But again, there are actually ways to get way more hip strength out of it, which as a high performance athlete wanting to be able to change direction as quick as they can is only going to help you from both again performance and decreasing injury standpoint. So we're talking about a few variations: side plank, the leg lift. That's going to be the most basic one. Again, not only are you working that leg a little bit or that hip by holding it up, but way more pressure is going to be put on the other one by keeping it up. And then you also have variations of knee drops. So you're going to be holding this position, hold that knee flexion, or actually be even marching. Similarly, you can do actual leg lifts to go with it. So again, work the side plank in, make sure you got that appropriate activation from your core, from driving that hip upward, and then start working by putting even more pressure on that one leg at a time by working some knee flexions or some leg lifts in. And again, your hips will thank you, your knees will thank you, and your coaches and your teams will thank you because your performance is just going to keep getting better. And that leads us to the last one. Right, so this last strength training exercise to finish off the agility video today and the agility workout. All right, so this last strength training exercise to finish off our agility exercises for today is another variation of the plank. Whereas the initial or the original side plank worked more the outer hips and then had variations involving a leg lift, this one is going to be way more intense, more painful, to be honest, but in a good way, as long as you're actually progressing to it. And most people haven't done this one. This one's called the Copenhagen Plank or the adductor plank, which means this one, instead of the outer hip, is going to be working the inner hip and thigh and the groin muscles. So again, so it lines up just like a normal side plank, but you need to have an elevated surface somewhere for your feet. In the full version, you go near the end of your foot and hold yourself up in a straight line through the strength of your inner thigh. Okay, you're going to have way more pressure there. So again, work on that, and if you get strong enough at it, you can actually put some weight on your hip. If you're not quite ready for the full exercise, start with your knee instead. You're still going to get the same idea. You can actually get side plank, be here, hold yourself up, and work down your leg as you get better at it. So again, this is a huge exercise for your inner thighs and your groin. Still get your core as well because of the plank. Not very many people will do it. And again, your ability to change directions will thank you, as well as your overall health, and you won't spend as much time possibly with little tweaks. So you can put all these together, get yourself a good workout out of it. Either do it on separate days in the speed workout to have more focused agility days, more focused speed days, or put them together for one big speed and agility workout. So again, hope this helps. Share it with people you know. Leave comments wherever you see this, and take care, guys.